What's good? It's Woog. Anthony Joshua just knocked Robert Helenius out in the 7th round. And look, I think a lot of people are tripping in terms of Anthony Joshua's performance up to the point of the knockout. Like, I heard the commentators, Barry Jones and I think Darren Barker or Tony Bellew, and they were just thinking of different theories and reasons why Anthony Joshua was appearing less aggressive. I'm thinking we are witnessing Anthony Joshua's evolution under Derrick James, where he's adding little tools here and there and sharpening certain aspects of his game. Like, that jab was blooding up Helenius's nose, and it was a competitive jab battle. And I don't know what people are looking for in Anthony Joshua's minute-by-minute performance. Now, look, I think that some of the perception that Anthony Joshua was having a rougher time or was hesitant to put his foot on the gas is because he looked like he kind of had a bruised face in this one. Like, Robert Helenius was doing a lot of work with the jab, high and low. He was jabbing to Anthony Joshua's body. Now, Helenius had to pick his spots. He's nearly 40 years old. And yes, he did just fight last weekend, but he finished that fight like in 3 rounds. He's planning to maybe have to go the full 12 rounds. So he can't exactly put his foot on the gas either. But this guy's like 6'7", he's listed at 6'8", but he didn't look like 2 inches taller than Anthony Joshua, although he looked taller in the ring compared to how they look comparatively in the press conference and weigh-in, basically the different face-offs that they had. So this is a dangerous guy. And look at what he did to Adam Kownacki. Now, I know we've seen Kownacki lose twice since those losses to Helenius. He lost to Demirzin, and then he just recently lost a few weeks ago. So yes, he probably should retire. But don't get it twisted. Kownacki was an undefeated fighter when he got in there against Helenius. He was a big favorite against Robert Helenius, and his career has never been the same since. Helenius, despite being knocked out by Wilder in the first round, is a pretty dangerous fighter, but he had to measure his gas tank. I mean, I think the last time he went the distance was against Dillian Whyte a few years ago. And to be specific, that was the last time he went the full 12 rounds was against Whyte. That was 2017, and that was a full 12-rounder. He has since gone a full 8 rounds and 6 rounds, both in 2018. So it's not like he's regularly going 10 to 12 rounds. So you've got Anthony Joshua, who is establishing a jab, and look at that hook that he put behind a feint. He had thrown 2 hooks. I believe it was the 5th round. He landed 2 nice hooks. And again, the second was behind a really nice feint that I didn't see in AJ's game before. You would also see him kind of feint his way into a more nicely timed jab that would splash on Helenius's nose. So he was doing some nice work with the lead hand. Yes, he was a bit tepid on really closing the distance to get in clean punching range where, he'd be able to properly line up the right hand, because we had seen him attempt it a couple times, like where you swing for the fences with the right hand. We'd seen him throw it a couple times in the earlier rounds, but he wasn't close enough at that point. So he's got to figure out behind the jab, keeping in mind that Helenius is doing work to the jab, how is he going to angle himself in to be able to line him up for a nice power punch? Either, we saw the left hook or, of course, the right hand. So it took him a while to do that. But again, he was having success with the jab, and he was going to Helenius's body with the jab as well. It's just that he started getting like a puffy eye and looking like red, or maybe even having a bloody nose by like the 4th or 5th round. He started showing it. So I think that kind of sped up the urgency in the broadcast, in the viewing public, like, oh man, what's wrong with Anthony Joshua? I don't think anything is wrong right now with Anthony Joshua. Call me crazy. Look, I had him winning the 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th round before knocking him out in the 7th. So it's not like he was losing rounds. Yes, there were some pretty damn competitive moments in some of those rounds. I gave Helenius the 2nd round, but it's not because he did anything super dramatic. I just thought he did more than Anthony Joshua. But again, they were both doing good work to the body with the jabs and were nicely timing each other with the jab up top. Helenius is a veteran, and yes, he lined Anthony Joshua nicely with that jab a few times. I mean, you can see it in the replays. Like, he stepped into it, and AJ was like totally unguarded, and he wasn't like moving back with the jab. The jab would just splash. But again, in those earlier rounds, AJ's being measured. He's winning competitive competitive rounds, but he's winning the rounds. And I think that he's getting some good minutes in. Again, this is a late replacement here. So AJ has spent the whole camp training for Dillian White, 6'4" with a long reach, but a very different style. Dillian White insists that they get on the inside so he could get his work done. Dillian White jabs a lot, throws left hooks a lot. And again, he likes to mix it up. Robert Helenius he's pretty tricky in his own way. Again, he's a few inches taller than Dillian White. He has a more lethal right hand, a very straight right hand that he just shoots right down the pipe. And it comes so sporadically and so occasionally, non-regularly, and he's looking to land big, meaningful shots. So, in terms of them landing flush on each other, it was almost kind of not a 50-50, but AJ couldn't afford to get caught cleanly with one of those right hands. So he was being pretty responsible, and Helenius was missing or kind of partially landing at best with that mean, straight, pretty quick. It's not a slow right hand when he really lets it go, and he wasn't landing flush on AJ. So let's give AJ some credit for his defensive prowess in this one, taking on a late replacement, a dangerous late replacement who's bigger than he is. So Anthony Joshua, I thought, used the tools that he had been trained on and had been sharpening, improving. He was able to use a lot of those tools here against Helenius to win rounds. And that Helenius is going to start getting drained into the middle rounds. I mean, Anthony Joshua didn't want to necessarily mix it up with him when Helenius was at full strength and full stamina. Why not win a few rounds, wear him down? Yes, you are taking a little bit of a battering yourself with those jabs, but Helenius was starting to be less elusive. He was finding his back near the ropes a lot more by like round 5, 6 into 7. So he was observably slowing down. And sure enough, AJ, pretty early in the 7th round, lined him up nicely. It was with a double jab, one high. The second jab was low to the belly, kind of upper belly area. And then he just put that right hand on top of it. And the thing is, Robert Helenius was leaning back too. It's not like he caught Helenius as flush as he was catching him with some of those well-timed jabs. Helenius kind of saw the punch coming, tried to get out of the way. So he was already pulling back against the ropes, but it still had enough leverage on it, and it had enough velocity on it and power behind it to send Helenius off the ropes and right onto the canvas. Timber. Good night. It was a beautiful knockout. And again, I'm not Monday morning quarterbacking my opinion here. I was watching the broadcast thinking, what are these broadcasters talking about in terms of the level of concern that they have for Anthony Joshua's aggression or lack thereof? I'm just thinking he's fighting a smart fight. He's winning the rounds. He's improving his jab. I noticed this might be a bad analogy, but I noticed little improvements in fighters when they are really putting the work in. So we just had Jake Paul versus Nate Diaz. I saw improvements with Jake left hand that won him the fight against Nate. Jake Paul, up to a couple fights ago, had grown so right hand heavy, right hand dominant, looking to land the right hand bomb. He dropped Nate Diaz with the left hook. And that wasn't the only clean left hook he caught him with. He was getting busy not only with the left jab, but with the left hook. He was always jabbing well to the body as early as the Ben Askren fight. But I say all that to say I was noticing improvement and some evolution in Jake Paul's left hand. I'm noticing some evolution in Anthony Joshua's left hand. And look, Joshua's had a good jab in the past, but the way that he's using it and the way that he's kind of changing up the speed, he's looking like a little bit more of a sweet scientist. And I don't mean that with a boring connotation. I mean, he's boxing intelligently. Not that he was in full control of Helenius. Again, competitive moments, competitive rounds, and you're in there with a competitive guy. But he was winning the rounds. I think he's showing improvement. To be honest with you, if we're talking Deontay Wilder, I like this evolution and this track that AJ's on so much. I would actually kind of like one more fight for AJ before he gets it on with Deontay Wilder. But, you don't have all day. Deontay Wilder hasn't fought since last October. I mean, it's a shame they couldn't get him versus Andy Ruiz together. Wilder's inactivity mixed with Anthony Joshua's growing confidence, also under the tutelage of Derrick James. If I was thinking, Deontay Wilder with the bullet before, yes, it's still very, very possible. But I mean, Anthony, this fight right now is as intriguing as it's been in a long time. So I'm happy with what we saw from AJ, not just because of the knockout, but I was not disliking what I was seeing in the first few rounds. No, it wasn't perfect. No, he didn't look like he had it all just on autopilot where he's not having to think. Like AJ still appears to be thinking a bit in the ring, right? So the more you work on it, the more it becomes a little bit more natural. And I think that they're getting the hours in down in Texas. Like I think that they are, if you're listening to Anthony Joshua's comments, he's working harder than he's ever worked right now. So he's always been a student of the game. He's got a recipe for success, and he's got one of the best teachers in modern boxing behind him, coaching him up right now. So I like what we're seeing. Go rewatch the broadcast. And again, I was a little bit frustrated with what I was hearing in the broadcast from multiple members. Again, they had different theories on why he was gun shy. One was saying, I think it was the former boxer. It was either Darren Barker or Tony Bellew, but they were saying or suggesting that it's because AJ is trying to get some rounds in, like he's carrying Robert Helenius. And then I think it was Barry Jones who was then saying, or no, it was the third commentator, I believe, who was saying, I don't know. I think he's a little bit confused, and I think he's kind of unsure of himself and unsure how to let his power punches go. So they arrived at the same concern for AJ's performance in there, but had different reasons or why they were thinking he was not pulling the trigger on enough power punches, I guess. But no, yes, he was very deliberate on when he would let those bombs go. But I saw a few nice hooks, maybe not as many as we would have liked to have seen. And I saw some nice, somewhat premature right hand attempts. Again, he was coming up short until he could comfortably close the distance. And again, a lot of that reason is because of Helenius's fatigue. But I wasn't mad at this performance. Let me know what you thought about, Anthony Joshua's 7th round knockout of Robert Helenius. Like, was it one of those knockouts that it's like, phew, because you were looking kind of bad in there? Or is it something that you could actually take a lot of positives from in those first 6 rounds and also be satisfied with the 7th round knockout? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And what do you think a Deontay Wilder versus Anthony Joshua? I mean, I guess it's cool to talk about it now. So I'm going to do some content pretty soon on analyzing a potential Wilder versus Joshua matchup, or Joshua versus Wilder, however they pitch it. But I've got to really evaluate this thing because I think that we are dealing with a slightly modified Anthony Joshua, different than the Joshua that fought Jermaine Franklin a few months ago. Definitely different than the Anthony. Look, and I'm not saying Anthony Joshua would be the favorite against Alexander Usyk. I think Usyk still wins that one, although I'm interested in seeing this Usyk versus Daniel Dubois fight. But Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, it's a very interesting. I mean, it's one of the. You know how much we've wanted this and how long we wanted this for. This is back in, when Anthony Joshua, basically after he fought Charles Martin and certainly after he fought Vladimir Klitschko, we've been wanting Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder for some time. They've had their respective career paths. It might be as good a time as ever. Again, I repeat, I wish Deontay Wilder could have taken a quality fight in between. Like, remember before the second fight with Tyson Fury, he fought that rematch with Luis Ortiz. I was thinking like, damn, that's a ballsy call, Deontay. There's no guarantee here, especially the way that first fight against Luis Ortiz went. He ran it back right before that rematch with Tyson Fury. It's a shame that he hasn't gotten back into the ring since last October. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on Joshua's performance and what you think about a potential Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder fight. And do you think that that's the next fight that goes down for both guys? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Please like the video. Subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.